are in person.
We finally made it.
You finally got it, dude.
I know. It only took like 8 other people in front of me.
Who did we have?
We had Will, Kyle, Dale, Jack, Zane, Raphael. You've technically done DJ before me.
Yep.
That one's just not out yet, at least at the time of this. Why do I feel like there's like someone else I'm missing that was like, maybe it was done at your house or something? But it's just a long
Pat
list of people.
Rolfus. He was in there.
Nice. You were just trying to make sure you had it right with everyone else before you brought me back.
And the funny thing is we're not even using that setup.
Yeah,
This fucking tube light.
We're in the nice hotel room.
Yeah, shout out to the Eliza Jane.
For blasting music in the lobby, that would have been perfect.
Dude, this is a dope hotel.
It is a really sweet hotel. This is like so different from the like chain hotels that I'm used to staying in.
Dude, if they put us in a Best Western, I would have fucking walked out.
He's too good for Best Western, huh? Put me in a Marriott.
Yeah, I'll take a Marriott.
Yeah, those are fine.
We're here in New Orleans for the YOLA Media event.
Yeah.
Which is also, if you go back last year, the first time I met Chris in person.
True, yeah.
Yeah.
I forgot about that.
Very interesting. Oh, son of a bitch.
And the first time I met him, it was the same thing. Mike was just falling off the show.
Didn't even have a mic.
Didn't even have a mic.
Amateur. Damn, that's crazy. Because if you've watched the first episode, you already know how I recapped how Chris and I met. But yeah, it was when Chris was just sitting in the lobby. Still the same thing though. Like Chris is in the lobby, he's sitting here, and everyone else is around him.
I don't know. There's like
it.
John, my brother, Braden, Will. There's like so many of them.
Yeah, it's cool.
This one's been great just with everyone being here. Like last year didn't really know anyone at the event. Yeah. Now I feel like I know a bunch of people and there's a whole table of us to like hang out and talk to.
Yeah.
It's pretty fun.
Like Pickleball Clinic was there last year too. Pickleball Central guy, and then all the YOLA employees.
Yep. But
it's cool. Yeah, there's like the Pickleball Pirates. I would see his content, but I wouldn't watch it that much. He's a cool ass dude, Keith. Games with him were fun.
Yep.
But it's cool. Like Braden and I were kind of having the conversation of like when he started, it was like 2019 to 2020. When did you start?
I would have been, I think it was near the end of 2021. So it would have been like October or November was my first video I ever posted on my channel, I think.
Yeah, Braden and I were just talking about how like he had mentioned he had like brought some terms into the space. Like, I don't know, don't quote me on which ones, but it was like all the terms of like swing weight, like twist weight, all court paddle. One of the three of you guys brought all of these.
Yeah, he did like all court paddle. I think I was the first to do swing weight. Then he adopted twist weight before I did. Hang on 1 second. Give me 1 second, let me answer this, just in case it's important. Hello?
That'd be awesome if that was Dale that called.
That would be really funny. No, much less exciting, just my mom.
For anyone that doesn't know, Chris called when I filmed the in-person with Dale.
Oh, I didn't even think about that. I forgot that happened. That's right. Oh, that would have been legendary.
Yeah, it worked out perfect because I was like, is there anything you have to say about the number 45 paddle? And, and I clipped it.
That was great. That was awesome.
Yeah, that's just like the not only terminology, but you guys have brought a lot to the community and the scene, and like especially for reviewers. Like, I don't consider myself a reviewer, but for the reviewers that are following y'all's footsteps, y'all have like paving the way to a degree. I think,
for sure.
Especially in the style and the way that people film reviews.
Yeah, I definitely think it's been. I mean, since I started, there was like it felt like there was no uniformity in anything in terms of like paddle metrics. There was nothing. That's kind of why like I started tried to make the spin test or whatever, and then someone had mentioned swing weight and was like, oh, you should look into this. And I feel like now things are a lot more streamlined where like terminology is kind of like all the reviewers have introduced terms into the industry that makes it easier for everyone to understand. Because when I came in, and Braden would probably know this too, it was just like total Wild West where like companies could say anything and they could probably get away with it because no one could fact check anything, or no one maybe even cared to fact check.
Yeah.
Now I feel like the companies are held much more honestly. Like, people are cutting the paddles open, they're play testing them harder, there's more eyeballs on it. Like, you can't get away with just like making something up because you'll probably get found out.
Yeah. So it makes up like such a large part of it. Now like companies are being held to higher standards.
Yeah.
Like you guys said.
For sure.
Last time we spoke, I asked you about your goals, and you said like one of them was getting as good as I can possibly be, like within reason to be like a 5-0 plus. And you said like would love to win some 5-0 tournaments. How has that been since then?
Haven't won a 5-0 tournament, but I did just play my first 5-0 tournament. I feel like I'm right on the cusp now of being able to say I'm a 5-0. I don't feel confident in it yet. Like, I will probably play only 5-0 moving forward, but it's still so new. Like, you know how whenever you're getting better at the game and you're like just about to break that barrier, but you're not confident saying it to people yet because like when you say that, you're held to a certain standard, and if you miss it, people are like, oh, you're just like lying. So that's kind of where I feel, where I'm like right on that tipping point.
Now that makes sense, because if like I got bagged by me today, then I also wouldn't feel comfortable calling myself 5-0.
Yes, Brian did hit me today, but that's a whole different discussion on paddles right there. Someone like Brian shouldn't be able to hit me. It's all the paddle right there.
That video will be released.
It'll be great. But yeah, no, I feel like I'm just about there, and I'm starting to train. I'm prioritizing training a lot more than I did last year. Last year was purely just like grinded work as hard as I could, and I realized that was great. It got me to places a lot faster than I thought I would get, but the work-life balance was not good, and I was not happy with how I didn't progress as fast as I wanted at the game. So now I'm like, I need that to balance workout and like feel happy about still just playing pickleball. So that's more of a like priority this year.
That's awesome. The priority this year is more playing?
Yeah. I mean, probably it'll still be more work, but definitely more playing than I did last year.
Okay.
Last year it was like 90% work, 10% trying to get better at the game. This year I'd like it to be like 60% work and like 40% getting better at the game.
Damn, that's awesome. Even Braden, who is like a 5-0, like a 5-0 plus, he's even talked about how like both you guys, like when we were talking earlier today, he was talking about like, oh, what were you last year? You're like, oh, I was like a 4-0. Like to go one whole point within a year is like solid. And it's not just like a testament to you and your brother, just like the way you guys approach, I guess, sports, hobbies, interests with like intention.
Yeah.
And there's got to be something to be said about whatever programming and training you guys use too. So I think you also started working with Connor Derrickson, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep, that was
Shout
good.
out Connor.
Yeah, shout out to Connor. He's great. I love working with him. It wasn't even so much for my actual game. What's funny about that is like, that was actually more of a work thing, because I realized it's like, if I get hurt, like let's say I rolled my ankle or I tore an ACL or something, I'm like, if I'm out for months, I'm so screwed work-wise. I'm sure I would find something to do. Like I could write blog posts about reviews that I haven't written and probably prioritize some other stuff, but I was like, that would severely mess up my work. So now I was like, I need to get stronger so that I don't get injured and then I can stay on the court longer. So going to the gym is like almost part of my work hours, where I'm like, after I've finished my main work, I'm like, okay, you have to go to the gym as just like part of your job.
I mean, that's just like another benefit to like working out and exercise. Like there's like mental benefits, there's physical, there's like preventative health, and there's like just preventative like injury and like mobility. There's so many benefits to it.
Totally.
That is really cool to hear that. So like Braden was also like proof in the pudding that you can pursue this as a content creator full time. He's been doing it like for a month and a half. But then like for you to talk about in the past year, like last year you were very focused on the content, like 90% content.
Yep.
And to see that like anyone was curious or wondering what that outcome would look like, kind of what you bring in, and you're making enough to be able to hire your brother, like you hired help, and you're able to like travel more, like kind of decide which projects to take on, which in the end benefits whoever's watching the channel, right?
Yep.
But I'm like, how has your business changed since we last spoke?
Oh man, yeah, it's probably changed a lot. I mean, I think my brother was just starting to work for me when we last talked, I'm pretty sure. So we've definitely streamlined that a little bit more now. He shoots a lot in his apartment. That's kind of where we shoot all of the product B-roll. So like his basement is just like decked out from head to toe in camera gear, and like where his computer is laid up so he can get stuff done quicker. So him working there is big. I don't shoot very much in my apartment anymore. I shoot my talking head, and that's about it, which has freed up space in my office, which also frees up a lot of mental space in my head when I'm not having to clean and rearrange the office every day. But otherwise, I think the next biggest thing is probably more structure. Last year was so all over the place, especially with my brother not being full-time for me. My biggest problem was always getting people on court to hit with. And like in the middle of the day, I would really want to go hit so that I could write, but everyone's at work. Now that my brother works full-time for me, I'm like, okay, I'm going to steal you. We're going to go hit so then I can come back home and write. Like he can take a break from editing or whatever. We'll go hit and then I can write. So that has been really helpful. Like my main goal is to try and hit almost every day, Monday through Friday. Sometimes, depending on what we're working on, that doesn't happen. We have like a lot of editing. We don't do that. But now I'm hoping we'll get through reviews a little bit quicker just because I can hit more.
Dude, that's so awesome that you could just pull your brother and be like, I don't know what the you're doing. Like whatever you're doing right now, it has to stop because I need you to go play with me. And it is like work related, obviously. But dude, that's awesome that like, and being around you guys are like close, but I can also tell you guys are like, you have a brotherly like connection, because there's times where he's like babbling on about some hilarious stories to me that I haven't heard and you've already heard them. And you're just like, this guy.
Yes, that is for sure a real thing.
Yeah, but you guys don't, it doesn't seem like you're directing him in any way. Maybe it's just because you guys have developed it at this point, but there's just like this non-verbal sync that you guys have, which is like super cool. And your brother's just, he's stoked to do the work too. It's not like he didn't have anything else to pursue, so then he's like helping you out. It's like he gets to do what he loves, you get to do what you love, and you're just bringing the two together. Yeah,
it works really well that way. Like I think he's at a point now where he generally knows what I want. Like, and we also do a lot of pre-planning. It's like a lot of times, you know, before something like this event we're at right now, I'll give him a general idea of like where things need to go, and then I might occasionally be like, hey, can you just grab this quick, like if I think he may have missed it. But otherwise, it's very little direction I usually have to give. And also, I'm still learning how to be a boss, which is a very new thing to me. And I just think of all the like, I've never had a regular job, but I've been around people who were like in a senior position over me, and like what I liked and didn't like. So I'm still figuring out like, how does that work? And also with your brother, it's just a whole different dynamic, right? Like but my goal is to just try not to be a bad boss. It's either over demanding or like, and to be honest, in some cases, I lean too much on the like relaxed side. I mean, he gets everything I need done plenty, but sometimes I am like, I think in a normal like work environment, a boss would probably like feed a little bit more like, hey, can you go do this? But I don't ever want to be like overbearing, especially as the brother, where it's like, oh, she's always telling me to work on something new. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's also been a last big thing this last year, is like, how do you be someone's boss and be a family member? So that's like been new.
What has been tough about separating the two?
For me, I don't think it's been too tough, but there is like, I think probably one of the most interesting dynamics has been like, okay, setting an appropriate amount of pay for the level of skill that is brought, but then also knowing like, this is your family member. Talking out of frame for that first half of the pod.
Oh, fuck.
I'll move it even closer just to be safe.
Oh yeah, how do you separate the two?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't had too hard of a time, but the hardest thing is definitely with the pay, I think, because you don't want to overpay for the level of skill that is currently being offered, but also then you realize like, if there is any financial struggle or a thing where it's like, oh, I don't have enough money for X, Y, or Z, it's like, now you're like, well, I'm responsible for that. So it's like finding that balance of like, okay, pay enough so that you can like clearly live a fine life and not have to stress, but also make sure that that's not more than what is appropriate for the current skill level. So I think right now it is in a good spot, but I was like stressed about that for a while where it was like, okay, how do I do this? And it makes sense for the business and makes sense for him.
Yeah, that's solid.
Because like I don't want, you know, if someone was ever going to work for me, I wouldn't want, they need to be paid where they can still live their life, right? You don't want them being like, well, I'm working for you, but I can't do half the things I need to do.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, you don't want someone to be like stressed out about the financial part.
Yeah.
If you want them to strive, at least.
Yeah.
You know, you want them to be able to direct all their resources and energy towards the craft and not figuring out how to pay their bills.
Yeah, exactly.
Especially if they're doing a good job, which your brother.
Yep.
Like the latest videos have been great.
Yeah.
Like, hey, what's going on? Hope you're enjoying the episode so far. So if you've been watching the past few episodes and videos, you know that I've been able to put in these ads for BreadNButter. Doug gave me a discount code for 25% off for the first 10 people that use the code. They make their power paddle, the Filth, and they have their control paddle, the Loco, and they have, of course, like a bunch of paddles dropping every year. More recently, they dropped two really popular paddles, the Shogun, which has already been reviewed and is getting very positive reviews, and then they also released the Fat Boy. But if you're interested in either of them, you can use this code BP25F. That's BP25F. And that will get you 25% off your entire order. And that's a very exclusive, like first come, first serve discount. So the first 10 people that use it get the code. Speaking of the latest videos, you started doing like a little bit of different content, like you started doing the vlog. I don't know if you've ever done it. Had you done it in the past?
No, very new for me. And actually, fun fact about that, I have shot at, before the first one that went out, like as of recently, I had shot at minimum 3 other vlogs and canned them while I was editing it because I was like, I just don't like this, but I spent like a good amount of time on them. And I finally got to a point where I was like, I want to experiment with this because I think the content could do well. And it's just like, I have a problem with perfectionism. And I was like, well, if it's like not good for me, then no one's gonna like it. So I'd scrap them. And I was finally like, we're just gonna shoot one and post it. I don't even care how good it does because I just wanna know if people even care about this. They might all, even if I made a perfect video, they might still hate it. Yeah. So I was like, just post it and find out if people hate it. And thankfully, people don't seem to hate it so far.
No, it's cool, man. Vlogs in general, I'm also kind of biased towards it because I didn't come up on Casey and I set, but it did come up like later once my brother showed me Casey and I like finally started watching it. But like Casey, vlogs are they're awesome. It's like you get the behind the scenes, you get someone who's, they don't really get your talking head persona. Yes. Right? They get someone like a little more relaxed and also see a different type of camera work. Yeah. Yeah. Instead of a product, or like a something like a non-living piece of material into now like, oh, they're filming like a person. Yes. Yeah. Totally. Yeah. Totally. No, it's definitely very different. But yeah, it's been fun to experiment and try different things. Because, I mean, I think I'm always going to be like, paddle reviews are the focus, but I think there's other types of content in pickleball that people aren't experimenting with that I think has potential if done right. So I'm like, well, I might as well like try it now while it's not a big thing, right? You know, like the barrier of entry is low. Yeah. Inanimate object. That's the word I was looking for. There you go. All there right. It is. It's been a long day. It has been a really long day. Dinner was good though. It was really good. Dude, new equipment, new like recording equipment. Like I talked with it about Aizec. Sorry, his brother's name is Aizec. It's not your brother, his brother. His name is Aizec. And yeah, I was talking to Aizec about it, and he was just like, yeah, well, you know, if we want to separate ourselves like for a while there, that's another thing. Like, as kind of like a trailblazer and someone who like started the reviewing side was very early on it. You guys started to kind of pave the way for the way paddle reviews can be filmed and the kind of like equipment that's used. And then Aizec was saying like, oh yeah, well, we noticed people started to copy us and now we like bought some equipment that would make it very difficult or expensive for them to copy. Yeah, I started seeing, and it's not a bad thing at all. Like some of the things we were doing were just natural progressions of like what people would probably do, but like for example, the one big thing we started seeing everywhere was the turntable shot where like paddles on like a thing and it just like rotates. And I literally started seeing that in every single review. And I was like, okay,
we were one of the only people doing this, and now that everyone's doing this, I was like, I don't really want to do it because we kind of just look the same. And so we, there's like different types of equipment. Like one thing we bought that I don't think anyone will go through the hassle of, even if money was not an issue, I don't think people would want to use this because even for us, like as filmmakers who like doing this stuff, this tool is such a pain to work with. It's basically like a robot slider that you can program all sorts of movements into, but it's like kind of finicky and you need to know a decent amount about like camera stuff to make it work. But I was like, you can do some really, really cool stuff with it that effectively no one else will really be able to do. So I was like, I always try and think about like, what can we do? Like if you come watch my video, why are you choosing to watch it over someone else? Mm-hmm. And of course, like the bottom line, most important thing is always like the information. But then the filmmaker background is me is like, well, I want to make this as like aesthetically pleasing to watch or like fun in some kind of way. So like we've been using that robot for our opening intro. And like the first one we shot with it was like, I think one of the coolest things in terms of paddle reviews done for a review. And I was like, this is cool. Like I'm proud of this. And like the best compliment I got was someone was like, oh, this is like an MKBHD intro. And I'm like, I love him. I was like, this is what I wanted to hear. Like that is like my guy. Yeah.
Damn. I love that you guys are like pushing it. Like Braden had talked about it a little bit, Pickleball Effect, about how he's like, now he wants to up his like production game because he said he was always focused on like the quality of the content, mm-hmm. which not to take anything away from like what you do. Yeah. You guys just have different approaches for it. Hard to say like why someone wouldn't watch your reviews because like the content itself is good. I think you're not afraid to say whether or not you dislike a paddle. I think something else he can offer is he's probably like the best player mm-hmm. as far as the reviewers, which is always like a different take too. Mm-hmm. But now like the production quality, man, like the production quality was there before, of course, and now it's like even better. Your talking head, like you talked about that, you have like 7 different lights going on at once, which is like crazy.
I could do a whole vlog about just like setting up my office for a video because I'm sure people think I just like turn on one light and like set up the camera, but it's like a whole thing.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
The talking head and like, yeah, the intro to the Hirache where it goes from like a just a straight angle, then it goes like 90 degrees and like, I think they even spins like a full 360 at some point. And you're like, damn, it like so elevated. The music got better, like the sound effects, the timing of everything. It's felt like it was always cohesive. My question to that, this elevation in production, is this something you're learning or is this something that you're taking away from your past as a DP?
For sure, I mean, always learning, but I would say largely it's from my past experience. Like I would actually say I've slowed down my learning and development in terms of camera skills or like editing knowledge since then, because now it's so focused on like having to do the work of pickleball paddles and learning like materials to do these reviews better. So it definitely carries from that, but always you're like trying to pick up a new thing here and there that's like, oh, like maybe that trick would like work well in here and like we'll try it out. And that's also where it comes in handy, like having Aizec, like he keeps up with like a lot of trends in camera stuff and he's like, oh, this would be cool. And I'm like, oh, well, like let's just try it. Yeah. Sometimes it's cool and sometimes it's like, oh, maybe we save that for another video or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Damn, that's awesome.
No, it's a ton of fun.
When can we expect a Pickleball Studio paddle?
I actually get asked this question. I've definitely considered it. But ultimately, every time I have ever considered this, I think it would take away everything that I actually like that I do in pickleball and turn it into the things that I don't like doing. Like, okay, now you have to deal with USAP approval, you have to deal with customer service, you have to deal with like people ripping on you even more because they're like, oh, this paddle's not as good as I thought it would be. And then like, you're probably not reviewing other paddles as much anymore because now also every company views you as a competitor, right? Like the thing we're at right now, I would not be invited to because I am now a competing company. So like, why would they invite me early to like steal ideas, right? So there's that. I mean, I think there would be potential there and it could probably build a brand that like monetarily does well, but I think what I've really learned in the few years I've been doing pickleball is like, okay, monetary is great. Obviously you want to make enough money to live and like ideally like thrive. And I think a paddle company could probably, if I did that, could do even more. But ultimately, I need to be having fun and like getting some fulfillment out of it. And I don't think I would get that from having a pickleball brand.
Yeah. And even if you wanted to find a way to like mitigate customer service, the USAP, by collaborating with another brand, then that would definitely take you out of like, you would definitely be seen as a competitor and take you out of like these opportunities to review other paddles.
Yep. It's funny. I really wish there's not really like on my podcast or in videos, there's like not any way to express this. Hang on one second, I just gotta.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I completely agree. Like it would change the dynamics a lot. And what I wish people like understood is like, I think the worst, probably most frustrating comment I will get from people on the internet is when they're like, I give some paddle a good review and they're like, oh, he's a shill for this company now, or he's a sellout, or whatever it is, like, oh, like maybe he's not like as honest as people think. And the amount that I like think about these things, like, okay, how would people view it if I did a one-off paddle collab with a company that I just really liked? Let's say it was the Double Black Diamond. Like, hey, a Pickleball Studio collaboration because I loved that paddle. And I'm always like, okay, I think that would be really cool. But then there's going to be that group of people that's like, yep, he sold out. Now he's making money. Of course, he's going to promote that paddle more. And like, I think about all these small things, like how would people perceive this thing? And like, my whole goal is always to like be as neutral as humanly possible. And it's like, I don't know. I wish people understood how much I think about that. Cause like, I will like, it's like, that's the type of stuff that will like keep me up at night. Is like, okay, did you do this well? Or like, a deal gets proposed and it's like, yeah, that would be great financially, but like that is a bad idea to do that.
Yeah, that's a great stress to have, man. Because like there's always going to be this temptation to kind of sell out in a way. That could be seen as selling out.
Yeah.
And yeah, it'll just push you to find like if it's financially, like if there's better financial opportunities, then this will push you into like figuring out how can I make like more money than if you want to continue doing things like growing your business to where like you can hire your brother, you might be able to hire more people, buy more equipment.
Yep.
But yeah, that's what I loved about like the first time we had our conversation, the first podcast together, was just like understanding like how much authenticity embodies who you are as a brand. And at the end of the day, based on like what I've read and heard about and learned about from like creators outside of even pickleball, like just big creators, it's just like authenticity is what people want.
Yep.
Even if you have a sponsored podcast and you're like going to promote a product in the podcast, then like my sponsor Leorever, like I would want to tell people this brand is a sponsor. They're paying me for it. I'm going to be 100% transparent.
Yep.
It's great because you're also someone at the top too. Mm-hmm. And like people will always be like kind of like other creators will be looking up to you guys for the decisions that you make.
Yeah.
And if you guys keep making maybe not the right decision, but the most effective and like fair decisions, then the industry will continue to be guided in that direction rather than if people were making like really bad choices and decisions that were very selfish, then the direction in industry could be swayed towards that direction. So it can really go like either way. And it's awesome that you take that to heart.
Yeah, I think it's really the only way to do reviews effectively is like you just have to say it how it is, because like I've talked about this with other people before. It's like, one, it's the only thing you have in this type of industry if you're a paddle reviewer is your word. Even what I try and tell people, like they're like, oh man, like these companies, like if you trash them, they probably just like won't send you anything anymore. And like when I first started, that is what I thought would happen. But what I feel has happened is even if I have given a company a negative review, they'll usually the follow-up release or at some point they will still send me something. And I think what has happened is the companies are even aware that like, okay, if we actually make a good product and it gets a good review, it is beneficial for us. Like, of course, getting a bad review, no company wants that, right?
Yeah.
But the potential for the good review, and they have seen like what that can look like, I feel like makes them go like, okay, well, we'll still send this guy. So it's like, I feel like it's better for everyone when you're as transparent as humanly possible. Like if you try and sugarcoat it, it's not really good for anyone. And I also, my personality is just so I can't like lie, and I just get like, I can't do it. Like, I don't know how to explain. Like, if I'm not jazzed about something, if I had to do an ad read for like some random shoe company I didn't care, I couldn't do it. You would know I'm lying through my teeth.
Yeah, yeah.
Because I can't make it work.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I just feel like to any reviewer out there that's like wants to get started, you should just be transparent. If something sucks, you should just say that. Yeah. You might have a company or two that blacklists you, maybe, but like in the long run, that's how you gain trust. And I feel like that's largely why I've been successful, is people like, this guy will tell me the truth. I know he won't lie to me about it.
Yeah. Something looks off if you look up a restaurant and all the reviews are like, out of 1,000 reviews, they're all 5 stars.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just.
Your immediate thought is you're like, no way it's that good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're like, either the restaurant really isn't that good and it's fake, or like all these reviews are just written by idiots.
Yeah. For sure. And I feel like people latch onto that more, right? Like when they meet you and they realize like, oh, he's the same person. And like, I don't know, I feel like people just like attach that versus like a guy that you're like, is this like a persona that this like person puts on online? I don't know. I feel like people just like want authenticity. No one wants like a fake friend. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, me being someone new and coming into this space around like you guys, like especially like last year, meeting like you and Will, and then like being around like John and Braden, I keep telling people that like if there's any like area within the content creation community of pickleball that I could have like made friends with or got myself into, I always say like the paddle reviewers, you guys are like just the coolest fucking group.
I'll take it. I will absolutely take it.
It's like authentic. It's authentic, right? Like, damn, like you guys are just fucking real, and you guys are just like cool to hang out. No one lives like tries to be like bigger than they are.
Yeah.
I think I've said this before. There's no gatekeeping of information. It sounds cliche, and you hear it all the time, but like rising tide lifts all ships, and you guys like see it actually does happen. You'll text me and be like, "Hey, your production here like looked a little bit off. Can I help you with it?"
Yeah.
And then like Braden, he's trying to like bring his production up, and like now it's become a joke that you should have an FX30 if you want to be a content creator in pickleball. And like, yeah, John Q's, I don't know who's been guiding his production. His shit is insane, dude.
Yeah.
His editing, I'm like, who did he hire for this editing? And you find out that
he does all of it. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, it's
Dude's
wild.
killing it.
Yeah.
And I think what I love about this, and I feel so extremely fortunate because I know other like content creator spaces like outside of pickleball are not like what we have. Like,
oh, really?
It feels so much better to be able to be friends with people and like try and help them and not see them as like a competitor or anything, but like just mental health wise, it's so much better. Like me as a person who's very competitive, I know that if I saw like Will, John, Braden, or like any of these people as like competitors, it would like ruin me. Like I would probably burn out so fast. But because I don't have to view them as like, oh, like they might beat me to this review. I'm just like, good for you. Like I'm happy if a video does well for you or whoever. Like it's just everyone is happier that way, and it's not fun to view someone as like, I want to beat them. Like I need to be better than them, you know?
Yeah.
I think it's just a hard way to live.
Yeah. Of course, I have to talk about my favorite sponsor, Vuori, which you can see in the video. Chris is wearing Vuori. I'm wearing Vuori, wearing this actually exact hat in the video. Yeah, I've been working with Vuori for the past like year and a half. Pretty much like every time I go out to the courts, I see someone wearing Vuori. I see someone wearing Vuori at the local courts. I saw a ton of people wearing Vuori at the APP Newport Beach event that I just got back from. Yeah, so it depends on what you're looking for, right? If you want shorts with or without liner, they got you. The core shorts have liner. The Banks shorts don't have liner. They also have some super cool looking board shorts. They also just have regular t-shirts too. Like they have performance t-shirts. They have super soft t-shirts as well. I like a lot of their clothes because it has a very like minimal look. Quality is great too. When you want to order, just go to vuori.com/buildingpickleball and you'll get 20% off your first purchase. And again, free shipping on any orders of $75 or more and free returns. Enjoy the rest of the show.
It doesn't even make sense to me for like anyone when that happens.
Yeah.
Like I totally get it. There are people like in other content, like if I ever met MKBHD, I would be like over the moon. So like I understand how this happens, but like as a person, I talk about this like in our group all the time. I'm just like, I feel like the most regular guy that like when people are pumped to meet me, I'm like, I don't know why. Like I'm just a dude. Like you know what I mean? Like I don't even feel like I don't think of myself as famous at all. And like I'm sure even some famous people feel the same way. You know, like when you're just like around your family, you're like, I'm just a dude, right? Like
That's the people you want to meet.
Yeah.
That's the people you want to meet. You're like, oh, they don't think like they're anyone special, so they're gonna act like completely normal.
Yeah.
And yeah, you do. Like when even the two people who won the giveaway to be sent on this trip, when they walked through the room, they immediately just recognized you. I don't even know if Will was in the room yet. I think he was like still like on his way from the airport.
Yeah.
And they just immediately recognized you. They were like, oh my God, like Chris Olsen.
And just every time.
Everyone around Chris just disappears. They're like not even in the room, but then like the people who like spot you.
I don't know why that is.
Dude, it was like they saw Ben.
I know. I know. It feels so, in my mind, it feels so like unwarranted, but also like it is really cool. Like I think for me, what feels cool about it is like I could go to like anywhere I don't want to say anywhere. I'm obviously not that big, but like it's cool to be able to go somewhere and like people recognize you to talk. Like it feels easier to meet people. Yeah. Like I'm extroverted and it's still like, you know, forcing yourself into a group feels kind of weird. So if people are like, oh, hey, it's Chris. It's like feels easier to, you know, like meet people or something.
Yeah.
But,
that's dope, man. It's super cool. I have a question from my buddy JT.
Okay.
You met JT.
I have met JT. I've played with him several times in my Minnesota league.
Yeah. How do you do in that league?
I do pretty good.
How did JT do?
JT's only been on my court once, and he's always lower. But to his credit, it's not because he's a bad player.
Always lower.
It's to his credit, it's because he isn't there frequently. So like he might move up, but then he gets bumped down because he hasn't been there in a bit. But he's a good player. Yeah. He's actually probably better than I am.
Damn.
Yeah.
JT, if you're listening, you got that Pickleball Studio stamp of approval. He's a Selkirk emerging pro now. Congrats, JT. It's cool. But question from JT, he said, like, how do you deal with everyone trying to interact, and how do you like filter out the people and brands that just want something from you?
Oh yeah, my tolerance level for this has gotten extremely small. Like, I try to not ignore emails or anything. Like I might be slow to respond, but I try and make sure everyone gets a response. Yeah. But if I get an email where I can tell someone has clearly put no thought into this email, like, okay, you're a catalog brand, and you email me and you say, like, how much do we have to pay to get a review? I'm like, just not gonna respond. Because I'm like, if you have not watched my channel enough to know that you can't like buy a review, then like I definitely don't want to work with you at all. And also it probably just means like you didn't put that much thought into making a good paddle, which doesn't make a good video to review, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, like those ones are the only ones that like I just like flat out ignore now. But the interactions in terms of everything else is like fine, just like busy sometimes.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's usually not bad at all.
Oh, this question.
Let's hear it.
Now that like you've gone, I don't know the different terms that this is called, but like you're still considered a YouTuber.
Yeah.
But now you've gone from like being I guess you could say like a self-employed, like individual YouTuber to now like you're building a business. Mm-hmm. It was always a business, but now you have your brother who's hired all on as an employee. Like, what is it like not touching the camera and changing from being the creator to managing the channel?
Yeah, it's always been managing the channel. It was just you had to juggle so many things. You're like, I have to be a content creator, a business manager, and then like, you know, what a million other things that get encompassed into doing this. I still have to touch a camera, but I will say for events like this, it's so nice having Aizec here where I can like just hang out and talk and hit the paddles and focus on what I need to focus on. And he worries about the cameras. Where in the past I was like, is my mic working? Is the camera charged? Is the camera in the right spot? Is blah, 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 all these things. And then it's like hard to even focus on the paddle. So like it has made life way easier when he can do that. And even just in my day-to-day work, I'm realizing there are things that are more or less important for me to do. For example, like me shooting B-roll of the paddle is not a good use of my time. Like, I don't want to say anyone can shoot the B-roll, but like Aizec can shoot the B-roll probably as good as I'm going to shoot it.
Yeah.
And he can't write the review, but that's like the highest value activity I can do is go write the review. So in that sense, it has been like huge, nice shift not having to worry about the camera as much.
Do you miss the creative aspect?
No, because I still have quite a bit of control in terms of that. Like Aizec will shoot, and if there's something I really want to try, I'll usually come over and just like help or just do the thing. And then editing, right now he's doing a lot of the preliminary editing, like, you know, chopping everything up, getting the general B-roll placed, and then I'll still usually come in to do some of the more creative work. Like when we did the Hirache intro, I did that whole intro because I really I knew what I wanted to do. I had a vision and I was like, okay, I'm just gonna do this because I know what I want. But I think eventually Aizec will get to the point where like, he can do most of that and I won't have to worry about as much, but it is important for me to still have part of the creative control because that's just fun to me. So I don't want all of it gone. I just want the stuff that's like, eats up brain space that I don't necessarily need to do.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's good.
Yeah.
We want you to grow as much as possible because when you grow, then we start to see more stuff and it honestly just grows the entire community.
Totally.
Back in last year's episode, which was filmed on, or I guess it was just released on October 26th, one of the things you said was, is this good for trust or is this bad for trust? That was a like principle, value, ethic, or like a code that you lived by. Is this still run true? And have you picked up maybe a new value or code?
No, I would say it's still largely that, and it kind of goes back to what I was talking about earlier, where I'm constantly thinking about like, okay, cool, I got offered this like cool opportunity, but like, how does that impact things? Like, for example, I'll explain how deep this goes. Like, this probably goes well beyond what people think I should even think about, but it's like, okay, let's say a brand has an event and they're like, hey, we want you to come try these paddles and like, you can do all this content stuff. And they're like, we'll cover the flights. I think about like, okay, should I cover the flight? Because will people think that if they bought the flight for me, that I now gave them a more favorable review just because they like made it a little cheaper? It's stuff like that where I go like that deep into it, and I'm sure like viewers probably don't really care, but I'm like, well, they might. And like, I know internally where my ethics lie, but I know that not everyone knows that, and it might not always appear that way to people. So I think about those a lot, but it's very similar to that. Like, for example, if they cover my flight, is that good for trust? Is that bad for trust? I think ultimately it's somewhere like neutral. I wouldn't say it's bad for trust. I don't think it helps trust.
Yeah.
But it's like, well, maybe the content wouldn't have happened if they didn't cover the travel expenses. So then you have to think about it that way. Like, would people rather see the content or would they rather not see the content? I'm like, oh, they'd probably rather see it. So definitely that is probably, that like kind of code of ethics is still like huge for me. Like, I should just write down every little thought I ever have about like, is this good for trust or bad for trust? Because like I could write a whole little book about some of the thoughts I go through. Like, I wish I could think of another one right now, but it's really stupid stuff I'll think about. I'm like, would people be upset about this? And I'm like, they probably would never even think that. So I don't know, just stupid stuff all the time.
Tell me about when Will and Braden pickled you and Sean Q150.
Well, by the time people see this, the content creator battle is probably live.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, it'll definitely be live by that point. But yeah, that's a low light of my career for sure. I have no idea how John and I got pickled because I didn't even think we were playing bad. And every game after that was pretty good. But that first game, for some reason, John and I just like couldn't make anything happen.
Damn.
And literally all I could think when we did that was I was like, dang, people are gonna think I suck at pickleball now. They're like,
Is this good for bad? Is this good for trust or is this bad for trust?
Yeah.
This is bad for trust.
This is definitely bad for trust. I mean, it fits the 3-5 brand, but people are like, wow, this guy sucks at pickleball.
You put out merch, like shirts. Mm-hmm. Are you guys gonna put out any more products?
Maybe. I mean, it's not a high priority thought in my head. Like the 3-5 at best shirts, like I kind of just did it for fun because I was like, oh, maybe some people will buy this. And I was like, I think it's kind of fun. But I haven't thought too much more about products just because, again, the main thing is the paddle review. So it's like, okay, if I go over here and focus on that, how much time does it take away from the thing that people actually care about watching on my channel? So it's like, cool, you made a product, but you took away the thing we come to you for. So it's like always a balancing act.
Yeah. What can people look forward to for like this year as far as like content?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, there's always like really small things we want to dabble with. I'm not going to say this idea because I don't want someone else to steal it, but I have like just some idea of something that I think could be kind of cool. But vlogs I do want to dabble with a little bit more. The one we did in Vegas like seemed pretty well received. So I was like, okay, like maybe we will dabble with these a little bit more, like maybe big events or something, do some of that. But otherwise, I think the paddle reviews will continue to elevate. Like I'm cutting open paddles now to like another way just to build more trust with the audience is like, look, I did my due diligence. Like sometimes people are worried about like companies sending me juiced paddles. So like now I'm checking the grit on my paddles to make sure the grit's legal. I'm cutting them open. And then like I might get one from retailers to make sure that that one matches and it's not a different paddle. So like stuff like that, I think the reviews you'll continue to see get more and more thorough, which is also why it takes a while for these reviews to come out, is because like you just keep layering these things on top and you're like, geez, we're at like 3 weeks for this review.
Damn.
Yeah, some of them are crazy. They don't always need to take that long, but I think a big thing that's happened to me is as it's continued to build and the channel's got more popularity and there is a lot of trust on the line, you want to make sure you've like done as much of your homework as like within reason, right? Like when the gearbox came out and people were getting it and they were like, Chris says this is one of the hardest hitting paddles and mine is like a pillow. I was like, what's going on? And like it really bothered me. I was like, I'm not lying to you guys. Like I went and I bought 2 of my own. I went and hit a bunch of different people's. I talked to different people. Like I spent probably, let's see, that would have been like almost 3 months, like talking to people and like hitting different paddles and like talking to Raphael to just make a 23-minute video. Obviously it wasn't like constant 3 months. I wasn't doing it every day of the week, but it was a lot of due diligence just to do that updated video. And so like now I become paranoid, like about, I don't ever want to mislead the consumer and make them, these paddles are a lot of money. $300 is not like throwaway money.
Yeah.
So it's like, you don't want someone to ever feel like they trusted you and they made a bad decision that you put faith in whatever you recommended.
We talked about this before, but I really like the follow-up reviews.
Yeah.
I like that.
That gearbox one did well. I think I should just do more of those.
What were the comments like?
Good. Yeah. I mean, it was funny seeing the comments of like, oh yeah, mine's super powerful, or people like, oh, mine doesn't hit that hard. But overall, I think people appreciated having the update. And I think it's good in the industry, right? Like I use my paddles usually for about 2 weeks of pretty heavy play when I review them. But like it's different when you have like, I use that gearbox for like 3 months solid and like beat the crap out of it. So that's a different story than 2 weeks, right? Like, did it break? Did it have any issues? So I think paddles that I make my primary, I'll probably do follow-ups on those because I think that's good.
So we talked about like what people can expect from the business side and the channel. What about as a player?
Yeah, I mean, this year I would like to medal in a 5-0 tournament. I mean, the year is still super early. So I think it's pretty well within reason, but we'll see. Who knows? I mean, again, it's similar to the first time I was on this pod. I just want to get as good of a pickleball player as I can, and that goalpost always keeps moving. Like at some point, like 2 years ago, I probably would have thought 5-0 is like, oh yeah, that's all I want. And now that I'm like close to that, I'm like, that's not enough.
Yeah.
But it's also a weird gap where you're like, 5-0 is not enough, but I'm also like, I don't really want to be a pro. So I'm like, it's like 5-0 then pro. So I don't know what it is after that. But definitely, if I could medal in a 5-0 tournament, that'd be sweet.
I wonder if they will add like a 5-5 or something, because you're starting to see all these dupers. They're like not even a top 10 player is a 6.5.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Right. Or even, 6'2" or whatever. And it's like, it is kind of a weird middle. I almost feel like there will be, I think in tennis it's called like the future tournaments or whatever, where it's like not high level pros, but it's like up and coming. I almost feel like that could be its own thing. Pickleball's not big enough for that yet, but there's definitely a big skill discrepancy between like the top 20 guys and then like qualifier guys a lot of times.
It would be cool to see you playing pro, like you and Will.
Do you know how funny that would be if it went from this 3-5 at best joke to me? Like if I just made it to a quarterfinal, that would be like peak. I would just accept that I will never get better than that. And if like, dude, that would be so funny to me.
You definitely play a tournament with like Kyle too. Kyle's
really good.
Like up there as far as.
Kyle's like a 5-0 with his left hand now. Jeez. I know, it's insane. He had to play a lot of lefty. And yeah, he's like gotten quite good.
Why?
He had like an injury.
Oh, really?
So he couldn't use his, he could use his right arm, but it would cause him pain. So he was just like, oh, I'll just do stuff lefty. And he actually asked me, he was like, do you want to play your PPA Minnesota, but I'll play lefty? And I was already playing with my brother, but I was like, dude, if I wasn't playing with my brother, I would totally do this.
What?
I know.
Damn.
Would have been hilarious.
That would have been awesome.
I know, that would have been some fun content.
Damn. Dude, good for him that that is another guy who's very determined.
Oh, dude, he is so, like, love Kyle. That is another, like, content, like, we'll have phone calls and just go over, like, business stuff or content ideas. Kyle is, like, such a real deal. Just, like, great guy, like, super dedicated, like, even just the amount of thought he puts into pickleball. Just like, dude, like, this is, like, the level of thought he puts into, like, pickleball as a game is, like, the level of effort that I put into, like, the video side of things. I'm like, dang, you know so much about this game. This is ridiculous. Like, he's great. I love Kyle. You can't not like Kyle.
When he jokes with you, it's hilarious.
Oh, dude.
Just like jokes anyone, like his humor's hilarious.
It hits every time. Oftentimes, he will like open phone calls with me with like one-liners all the time. And he'll be like, I'll be like, hey, what's up? And he'll say like, you know, I was just doing nothing and I just thought I would call like one of my favorite people and see what they're doing. So I called 5 other people and they didn't answer and now I got to you. And I'm like, oh, nice, Kyle. But like every time there's always like some one-liner and he's so funny.
I'm
like,
going to steal that line. Damn.
Dude, it's so funny. It's so good. Like, I don't know how he's so witty, but he just comes up with stuff all the time.
That's the perfect way to describe his humor. Very witty.
Yep.
Very witty.
Yeah, he's on top of it.
Is there anything else that you wanted to talk about that I haven't asked you about?
I don't think so. I think that covers a lot of it. It's kind of fun to see where, I mean, I think there's a lot of things that are still the same from the last time we talked, but it's interesting to kind of see how the like business has progressed and also even just seeing how much you've progressed since then. Like, I remember, I'm trying to think what your first in-person one was, but from that first one, like the ones you're doing now with like Zane and stuff at like your place, I'm like, geez Louise, these have like leveled up a lot.
Oh, thanks, dude.
Does it feel like that to you too?
Kind of, yeah. I guess when I watch it now, like the past ones, like Jack and Zane, the lighting has gotten better.
Yeah, it's really good.
Like buying like different video equipment. I'm getting a little bit better at the conversations, which always a prepared guy. Like someone asked me, was like, hey, can we collab on some content while you're here? I'm like, dude.
I didn't get to prepare anything.
Yeah, like I can't guarantee anything because I need to be able to prepare for it.
Yeah, that's similar to me. I can't. When people are like, "Hey, let's just like make up a video on the spot right now," I'm like, I can't. Like my brain just doesn't operate that way.
The video's gonna come out like shit. You know, I'm gonna look like shit. You're gonna look like shit. It's not gonna work out well for anybody. So, yeah, like I think just being a better like conversationalist. I think like being able to go like a little bit more with the flow has been good. Yeah, just venturing out a little bit more. Like as a content creator, like when you were talking about like, man, should I like take this video and scrap it or should I just put it out there? And a lot of times I'm just like, just put it out there.
It's for sure the best answer. And I have to remind myself of this all the time because I'm the worst at it.
Like I don't like doing reviews, which is probably why the last video I did on the reviews was like top 3 beginner paddles. And like that video, the sole purpose of that video was to work on like like creators that I was inspired by, like Gox, like Casey Neistat, Colt Kerwin. It's just like, what are they doing in these videos, and how can I make a review not feel like a review? Sure. And then that's like kind of where I came up with like some really so silly ideas. Was like the paddle that looked enlarged just because I put it closer to the camera and I stood really far back. Sure. And so like I looked like a small person. I was like, this paddle is like a 6.5 inch width and like it's like 16 inches tall.
Stuff like that is good though.
Yeah.
Like I really do think you know, the first iteration might not work, but like you keep building on it, and
Yeah.
eventually it becomes your own style, right? And like that's, I feel like, how people come to appreciate you. And I'm sure, like, I'm willing to bet you give it like 3-5 years, maybe even less in pickleball. Like, I'm sure there will be other like really top tier reviewers that like, I don't think we all use like the same formula. I think we all do things in our different way, but you're gonna find someone who's like super off the cuff, but like probably just as trusted and like just as good, but with like a completely different style. It's like doing stuff like that, I think is good.
Yeah, it's kind of like social contracts and like just putting your work out there. It's like when you put that stuff out there, you will have to get better. There's like you're putting your like heart and soul out there, and you're putting like your time and your resources, but like it's also your image. Like if you people say they don't give a shit about what other people think, but we all do. Deep down,
Yeah, 100%.
we all care about what other people
Yeah.
think. And if we do, that's a good thing. Like it makes us want to be better.
Yeah.
So if I put out a video where I'm like, shh, this is like the first time I'm doing it, this is like the first run, but I worked hard at it,
Yeah.
and I know that this is just the beginning. This is just a first attempt. It's just like my first try. It's not failure. It's just your first attempt. It's like Goggins would say. And so you just put it out there, and then like when you do, you're like, okay, the way people received it, terrible, but
Or it might
it'll
not
get
even
better.
be. Like,
Yeah.
I've had videos that I put out, like, actually, even my 3-month gearbox review, I almost didn't put that one out. Like, I really thought it needed more work because it's largely just me talking for, like, 23 minutes to the camera with, like, no footage, almost. And I was just like, dude, you just got to put it out. Like, you've spent so much research time on this. Like, just make the video. Like, again, it goes back to, like, people would rather have the info than, like, you found the perfect representation of the info or something. And, like, I think always just putting the work out is like the best way to go, because you always learn something, right? Like maybe people liked that gearbox review. In fact, it was one of my best performing videos in recent times. And so what that told me was, maybe you don't always have to put not as much effort, but it's like, it's okay to not go 1,000% on every video. Like it can still be a good video when you do 90% or whatever. So it was like, okay, that's good to know. Like maybe my audience doesn't put the same pressure on me as I put on myself.
yeah.
So I feel like stuff like that is always good. So it's good to experiment. But yeah, you've like, your stuff is like, it's been fun to watch it grow.
Dude, appreciate it. Appreciate that you were a part of it, like early on, and being like willing to be a guest, and just like helping out too. The split screen, when I was doing remote ones, and just like always helping with the production. So yeah, I appreciate it, man.
And see, it's fun even like that. Like when I think about it, I'm like, I've now gotten to watch you grow too. Like it's fun, like, so it's fun with all of them. Like John and Braden, like getting into more camera stuff. Like you as well. Like all of us are like learning about these different things. And it's fun. Like you get to watch your friends grow and get better. And I feel like that's why I'm like really happy with the space we're all in. Is it's like, it's just, we're all having fun. Like we're all building something for ourselves that like we're all proud of, and like hopefully turns into a business that sustains us. Like I just think that's a cool thing.
It's so weird how friendly people, how like positive and friendly people can be in an environment where there is like competition, but competition isn't like the same definition in the traditional sense of like this like kill or be killed mindset.
Yeah.
It's like, no, we can all help each other grow. We can all support each other. And I'm still kind of trying to get familiar with it. It still feels very interesting. But I think I'm also just surrounded by the right people.
Yeah.
Like there are people who do have that mindset of like kill or be killed. And they like really don't want to share. They want to gatekeep. They want to charge ridiculous amounts, or they want stuff for free from you.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, well, I'm not going to hang out with you.
Yeah.
I'm not going to associate myself with you. And it's very clear who, for the most part, who the like good people are.
Yeah. And I think the way I see it too is like if you try and take like big shortcuts in life like that, we're like, oh, hey, I'm going to gatekeep stuff so like I get ahead. I'm like, I always just think that catches up to you eventually, right? Like there's a lot of like ways I feel like with the Pickleball Studio stuff, like maybe we do it slower, or maybe like finances didn't grow as quick, but like I think in the long run, if you zoom out, we were able to do this for like 10 years, and you had a guy that was like taking the shortcuts and like doing dishonest reviews and like getting money from it, which I don't really think that happens in our industry right now, which maybe one day it will. But like, I think those shortcuts will bite you eventually. It just might not happen immediately.
Yeah.
But like, can you do it for 10 years? I don't know. Like, I hope I can do it for 10 years.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Nope. I don't have anything else, man.
No, that was fun. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
This is great.
I will link all your stuff, all your contact information, your social links. If you don't know how to find this guy, shame on you, dude. Yeah, shout out to my sponsor, Viore. And
Hey,
just
I'm wearing Viore. I love it. Hey, Viore, hit me up if you want to work with me too, because I love your stuff.
Yeah, torso down. Always like, I would say head to toe, but up here it's always melon.
It's always melon up top. I can't do the Viore hat. It's all melon.
Dope. Hell yeah.
Oh, that was fun.
Yeah. Damn. Finally got the in-person.
Let's go.